Welcome to Rathalos Watch. Today I am going to be talking about even more leaks that have occurred over the last 48 or so hours. This leak includes the majority of the returning monsters, new ones, and there's even more information now on part breaks, difficulties, quests, monster settings, and locales. This is a super big spoiler video, so if you want to be surprised, then I suggest you do not watch it. You have been warned. Otherwise, stick around and enjoy the juicy details. There is a lot here, and it's built upon the last Datamine leak that happened a week ago and is coming from the same source, which is very credible, Capcom themselves. I will also provide the Reddit post of when this was discovered so you can have a look for it yourself, but everything has been compiled for you in this handy video. I am going to be reading over the monster roster first, which includes both new and returning monsters, and then we will discuss some of the locale information that has been found and everything else, including some quest stuff, difficulties, weather effects, and even monster part breaks. After all that, I will give you a personal take on it, on what to expect next, and what I think of the leak so far. Also, if you are a fan of Gammoth, then I highly recommend that you stick around till the very end. There is some very interesting information here in regards to Gammoth, or possibly some sort of a new elephant. If you are looking forward to Monster Hunter Wilds coverage, or just Monster Hunter in general, make sure to subscribe with notifications turned on. And don't forget to join our Discord community. Link is in a pinned comment. Without further ado, let's begin. Okay, first thing, let's go over the monster list ID. If you are here from the previous Datamine video, then you already know what a monster ID is and how it works. And if you are new here, then I will quickly just explain that every monster has an ID attached to it, and it has been done that way ever since the very first Monster Hunter game in 2004. All of the monster IDs are also in chronological order of when they were added to the franchise, but not the game itself. I'll have the link to the monster ID Google Sheet in the pinned comment and video description. There's a distinction there, so please understand that. Anything below monster ID 150 is before Monster Hunter Wilds, and everything starting at 150 and after is Monster Hunter Wilds and beyond. Last but not least, I just quickly wanted to say that my very first leak video about returning monsters was uploaded at the end of September. It was and still is the most highly viewed video on the channel. It was a Chinese leak that happened on a Chinese social media platform, Baidu. And this is important because that leak is very heavily related to the data mine that has been discovered in the Monster Hunter Wilds beta files and code. Now that we have this knowledge and context out of the way, let's get into the nitty-gritty details of the Datamine monster roster using the monster ID that was found in the files. I do have to warn you though that some of these monster IDs will make you question their existence, but it will make much more sense after we discuss them, so please bear with me. EM001 Rathian, EM002 Rathalos, EM002_50 Extinct Species Rathalos, EM005 Gravios, EM008 Yankutku, EM009 Gypceros, EM021 Congalala, EM022 Blangonga, EM046 Lagiacrus, EM070 Nerscylla, EM071 Gore Magala, EM077 Seregios, EM0100_51 Extinct Species Fulgur Anjanath, EM0113_51 Extinct Species Ebony Odagaron. Okay, now we are going to get into the 150s, and anything at 150 or higher are all Monster Hunter Wilds monster IDs. EM0150 Doshaguma, EM0150_50 Extinct Species Doshaguma, EM0151 Balahara, EM0152 Chadacabra, EM0153 Cumatris, EM0154 Lalabarina, EM0155 Rampampalo, EM0156 Raidao, EM0157 Uthuna, EM0158 The Black Flame, EM0159 Jerican, EM0160 Arkveld, EM0160_50 Extinct Species Arkveld, EM0161 Switch X Ice Monster, EM0162 New Unknown Monster, EM0163 New Unknown Monster, EM0164_50 New Unknown Monster Final Boss due to the highest HP and most reward points and zennies in the quest. Alright, that was a big mouthful. I know the extinct species sounds confusing and super sus, but please hold on tight here. There's a lot to cover and it will all make much more sense towards the end, so just be patient and stick with me here. First, this Datamine information information literally confirms the very first leak that I've covered on this channel, which came from the Chinese social media platform Baidu. That leak happened ahead of young Kutku and Congalala reveals back in August, but I found out about the leak at the end of September myself. Oh, and please save me your... But there was a young Kutku on Jamma's back, and the Congalala was teased via the dual blades, so anyone could have guessed that. Silliness, because this leak happened before Capcom even started revealing weapons, and the young Kutku toy could have been an Easter egg just as much as Baby Tetsukabra was in Monster Hunter Rise. This individual obviously had access to something or someone at Capcom or a localization team that had access to marketing material or some sort of an insider information, and this data mine confirms the legitness of the original leak. Anyways, this initial leak that I've covered included the following monsters: young Kutku, Congalala, Blangonga, Gypceros, Nerscylla, Lagiacrus, Seregios, Gore Magala, and Mitsune with Zinogre. However, both Mitsune and Zinogre are apparently going to be coming in as post-launch updates, meaning title updates, after the game launches according to the leaker. This makes sense since they are not in the data mined list right now, which means they won't be part of the base game at launch on February 28th, 2025. I'm suspecting that the first title update to come in around April, and it will most likely be Zinogre, but that's a personal prediction. For the record, Monster Hunter World came out on January 18th, 2018, and its first title update included Devil Joe and was released in March of that same year, which is a 2 months gap between launch and the first update. So if we go with that logic, I think it's going to be about the same time frame. The leaker also did mention that Frenzy will be playing a big role in the ecology of Monster Hunter Wilds, and guess what? A bunch of Frenzy strings were also found in the data mine as well. So let's take a quick peek. In this image, you can see a lot of different parameters, and the letters POP stands for population. If you look closely, there is a Frenzy population parameter, which I thought was very interesting. Reddit detectives also believe that that is related to Gore Magala's Frenzy virus. To top it all off, there's also a cocoon population parameter, which most likely relates to Nerscylla or some sort of a spider in some shape or form. Perhaps Nerscylla is going around and hunting Gypceros as she roams around and then puts them in a cocoon. That is her main and favorite prey. Really thought this was an interesting detail. Considering that Monster Hunter Wilds has a huge thing for an ecology and wilderness, it only makes sense that you have a monster infecting other monsters, causing chaos. Everything is lining up with the design philosophy, and Gore Magala is the perfect monster for this kind of a fantasy. One more quick thing that is worth mentioning is that there was an individual on Reddit who was kind enough to crack the whole species classification code, and this is what he found out. Now, whether you want to trust it or not is your personal preference, but judging based on what he said, it makes a lot of sense and confirms that Capcom is indeed introducing a whole new classification. Species _00 are flying viverants, which includes Rathalos, Rathian, Gravios, Seregios, Radau, and Arkveld. Species _006 are fanged beasts, which includes Congalala, Blangonga, Doshiguma, and Anjanath. Species _07 are bird viverant, which includes young Kutku and Gypceros. Species _009 are leviathans, which includes Lagiacrus, Balahara, Uthuna, and 2 unknown monsters who are also leviathans. And no, it's not Agnactor, because both of their IDs are Monster Hunter Wilds. Species _010 are brute viverants, which includes Gypceros and Rampumpolo. Species _012 are amphibians, which only includes Chotacabra. Species _013 are Temnocerans, which includes Nerscylla and Lalabarina. Species _016 is the new classification and is speculated to be cephalopods, which includes the Black Flame and another unknown monster under the EM0163 ID, which is the monster that is mentioned before the final boss monster ID, which is EM0164. Looks like we are getting 2 octopus-inspired monsters. Very exciting. Species _017 are apparently extinct species classification, including extinct species Rathalos, extinct species Fulgur Anjanath, extinct species Ebony Odagaron, extinct species Doshiguma, and extinct species Arkveld. And of course, last but not least, the final boss monster ID is also under this category. There is something going on with the whole extinct species lore in Wilds, but that is best left for speculation. So I would just not read too much into it right now, but it does kind of make sense considering Arkveld is mentioned as being one of the extinct species. And then we have the last species _019, which is a question mark classification, which only includes Gore Magala according to the Datamine. This begs the question, where is Shagara Magala? Shagara is known as an elder dragon, but we know that Capcom confirmed that elder dragons are taking a back seat this time around, and normally Gore Magala always comes with Shagara Magala. So this remains a mystery. Perhaps a title update or something saved for the future is my guess. Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments. Next thing we are going to look at are the ST strings. The data miners confirmed that ST relates to each of the locales. ST101 is Windward Plains, ST102 is the Scarlet Forest, ST103 is Oil Well Basin, ST104 is the Wall, ST105 is Core, and ST401 is an arena map. Then there is ST402, which is a, in quotation, wall boss fight. And the monster ID 163 apparently has a wake up animation in this specific area. So I find this very curious. ST403 is the final boss arena, and ST404 is a priestess that also has some sort of a village. I am not 100% sure what the priestess is referring to or where exactly it is located and how it's related to the lore. As we all know, Monster Hunter Wild's logo has 5 circles, with each circle indicating a large locale. At least that's what many of the fans theorized, and it seemed to be correct. The G rank expansion usually adds an additional new large locale, and that will most likely be the same case here. Last but not least, here's an image of all the weather effects that have been found, and if you look closely, we can see a blizzard effect. This basically is the final confirmation now that there is indeed an ice locale. The beta itself confirms this. If you go to the graphics options, there is a parameter that you can change for both sand and snow, and you can also create a meal that helps you with both hot and cold environments. Okay, with some of the location and monster stuff out of the way, let's discuss quest rankings, including high rank unlocks and legendary difficulty. So this is going to be a little bit overwhelming, but sit tight and listen carefully. Here's another image indicating something called monster setting. If you look closely, you can see different settings such as normal, frenzy, and legendary. There's also a column for HR. HR is when the unlock happens. For example, if we look at EM0157, which is Uduna, the HR is 50 and the setting is legendary, meaning that you will unlock a legendary difficulty version of Uduna once you hit HR 50. At HR 60, a legendary version of Radar was also unlocked. Now, we don't know if those are the final retail version numbers of when the actual unlock will happen or not, but the point is that apparently Monster Hunter Wilds will have monsters of legendary difficulty. I am going to assume that it is this game's version of arch-tempered monsters or something similar to that. Basically endgame stuff. We also have no clue if there's going to be any visual distinction between a normal version versus legendary, and if they will have any additional extra moves or not. I assume that the armor and weapons will be superior though. This image also further confirms Gore Magala and the frenzy status of monsters as well. I mean, it's literally in the name. There's no question about it. One interesting thing to note is that legendary Arkveld unlocks at HR 100 and legendary Gore Magala unlocks at HR 90. Very curious, why are they so close to each other? I have a strong suspicion that both Arkveld and Gore Magala have some sort of a story beat relevance here, because it also suggests you'll face Arkveld right after Gore Magala during the lower rank / story questing before the endgame. Also, someone managed to rip out the in-game icons of monsters, status effects, ailments, buffs, debuffs, endemic life, and so on. I have no clue who it was, but credit to them anyways. You are a chat. The reason why you see spaces in between the icons here is because some of the icons were not ripped out, meaning that there is supposed to be an icon in the missing spaces. Regardless, there is a ton of icons, and if you look at the monsters, we can see Chotacabra, Doshiguma, Balahara, Raidao, Gypceros, and an unknown monster icon that hasn't been discovered yet, or rather an investigation monster. This confirms so many things, it's not even funny. We even have icons for Balakchi, male and female Keranatoth, Dalthodon, Taeloth, Gypceros, and whatever the pink looking thing is. I think that's Baunos. Down below, we have a bunch of endemic life icons as well. Not going to be talking about buffs or debuffs, because those are very obvious. Okay, fellow hunters, we are almost near the end. Time to talk about part breaks real quick, and then I'm going to do a quick overview of what I think about this whole roster thing. So here's the part break image. Now I know it looks a bit overwhelming and everything's all over the place, but let me explain quickly what is happening here. Thanks to my Discord community, they've decided to reorganize this list so it's much easier to read. So they took all of it and put it in a Google Excel sheet. Here is our reorganized Google sheet. With the monster part breaks, we kind of tried to have fun with it and guess which part breaks belong to what monster. I would not look at this section too seriously. It's mostly very speculative. The thing on the left is what was found in the Datamine, so that information is factual. But the stuff on the right are just our theories on who it would belong to. Feel free to pause the section of the video and come up with your own theories and speculation. In a nutshell, Frozen Core sounds like some sort of either an Apex monster or possibly a final boss. Just the word core itself sounds overly important, and I don't know any regular monsters that would have some sort of a core. Most of them just have regular body parts, so I personally believe it is the end boss, but I could be easily mistaken. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments on the Frozen Core boss. The umbrella oil, head oil, and torso oil sounds like a monster from the oil well basin, and the only one I can think of is obviously the Black Flame, since he's mostly covered in oil. I do not believe it is Rampampulo because an umbrella sounds like it would belong to an octopus rather than a Bruvivorant. Umbrella octopuses are characterized by a web of skin between the arms, causing them to somewhat resemble an opened umbrella when the arms are spread. Therefore, these part breaks probably belong to the Black Flame. Calycera belongs to Nerscylla. It's either a pair of appendages in front of the mouth and around arachnids or some other arthropods, or usually a modified pincer-like claws. Last but not least, we have a breakable trunk. The first thing that comes to mind is Gammoth, but sadly, no one has found any monster ID that belongs to Gammoth, which would be EM083. So either it has been scrapped in this leak by Capcom, or we have to wait for another demo or beta to see the rest of the data that is missing, or it could be a completely new monster that also has a trunk. It's not Catcha Watcha, by the way, because when you break his face, only the ears get broken and not the trunk. Okay guys, we're at the final stretch now. So what does all of this mean? Well, it seems that we are rather close to the final monster roster. This leak confirms a ton of things. First and foremost, it looks like a total of 14 monsters are returning, with 3 of them being in the extinct species form, and on top of that, it confirms that the Chinese leak that I've talked about a few months ago is indeed real. If you have been hoping for Lagiacrus, Seregios, Gore, Magala, and Nerscylla, your prayers have been answered. Absolutely wild returners. Huge. This is amazing if you ask me. I want a Kiropeko as well, but I will take these 4 in one game over just a single Kiropeko. There's always a chance for him to be in the title update. Gravios is an interesting surprise if you ask me. Not sure how many people wanted him, to be honest. Odd choice if you ask me. Gypceros makes a lot of sense since Nerscylla is returning, and remember what I said in my Should X Monster Return series? I said that the only way I see Gypceros returning is if only Nerscylla returns, because she wears his hide, and with Monster Hunter Wilds all being based on ecology, it makes complete sense to include both of them. My Nerscylla speculation video that I released a few weeks ago was also on the dot. My very first video on Lagiacrus in the series has also turned out to be true, with my personal speculation and theories on it. All I gotta say is, we did it, boys and girls. The prophecy has been fulfilled. Gore Magala makes a ton of sense as well with his frenzy mechanic, and not only that, but I also believe he will have a strong presence in regards to the storyline and is somehow related to Arkveld. It's just another no-brainer monster that fits the whole ecology part too well for it not to be included. I am glad that Fulgur, Anjanath, and Ebony Odagaron are coming back in their extinct species form. Those were one of the very few good monsters from the Monster Hunter World monster roster. Those are superior versions of their regular counterparts too. I am very excited to fight them again and see what they have to offer. Very curious to see how they play out. I also believe that this leak is basically nearing its final roster. I am deeply hoping that there is still some more monsters left, but I am not sure exactly how many. Right now, we are at 14 returning monsters and 17 brand new ones. That is a total of 31 large monsters, which I believe one more extra monster than what Monster Hunter World launched with, which was a total of 30 large monsters. I would love to break down the roster more deeply, but at this point, I'd say let's just wait a little bit longer before I do another big official roster update video. This video is more about data mining and leaked information rather than counting the final roster. Assuming that Capcom did scrape some of the data and there are still some goodies left for monsters, I'd say that the final monster roster is probably around 34 to 36 at the maximum. It's also nice that we now know that the game does indeed have 5 large locales, with the 6th being an arena map for your usual arena quests. I wonder if they'll have anything interesting for those types of quests. The fact that legendary Arkveld also unlocks at HR 100 strongly suggests that this game does not have a single Elder Dragon, because the monster ID EM064 is tied to the species _016, which belongs to an extinct species classification. Not a single monster in this data mined leak belongs to Elder Dragons. Capcom was not kidding when they said they are not focusing on Elder Dragons this time around. Looks like they might be saving them for the expansion or have some other plans in mind. Let me know what you all think about this in the comment section. Anyways, that is pretty much it. Absolutely insane stuff. At this point, we now just have to play the waiting game for the next beta or demo for more data mining information. If there are any more significant updates in the near future, I will for sure let you know. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit like and subscribe with notifications turned on. Peace out and happy hunting.